Well, it's traveling time again, and I'm headed to Brunswick, Maine to visit Steve and Mercy Norman. Good morning, Mercy.
Good morning, Ron.
Hey, Steve.
Good
How are
morning.
you? Oh, boy, I had a wonderful night's sleep.
Oh, good.
And this coffee cake is fantastic.
Well, I'm glad you're enjoying it.
So what are we going to do today?
Well, today we're going to head up into
Mercy
one
and
of the
Steve
rooms
explained
that's
that
in the back
most
part
of the
house.
interior
Probably
woodwork
the
at the
ones
inn
that
is
are
quite
the
detailed,
very
reflecting the elegance and style typical of the larger 19th century homes in town. But one room, most likely the housekeeper's quarters in earlier times, has trim that is painfully plain by comparison. Instead of replacing it, Mercy and Steve have come up with another idea.
Well, the idea, I think, is to try to not tear off, not to remove the existing, but to build upon that using these standard pieces and just adding to it, and that little bit of detail as it
Makes
runs.
a big difference. Yeah. Okay, well, listen, why don't we do this? Why don't we put some of this on the baseboard and around the door casings and just see how that looks and where we want to go from there.
Sounds good.
Perhaps the most important part of any molding job is accurate measuring. Two important tips here. One, make sure you're at eye level when reading the tape measure.
15/16.
And two, it's always better to be a little long than short. You can always cut a bit more off.
87.
So we set up shop in a nearby room that was, until recently, their son's bedroom.
Now, Steve, you know this, but Mercy, this is, let me just go over what a miter cut is. It actually is an angle cut, usually on the end of a piece of wood. And most of the miters that we're going to be cutting today will form an angle of 90 degrees. This is the kind of miter that we're going to be working with today. So let's start by taking one long piece of molding right here and cutting a 45-degree miter on one end. There you go. Okay? Okay, Mercy, you want to do this? Just press that down onto the table, back toward the fence with the left hand. Go ahead and make your cut. Good. Now this piece of molding is going to have a miter cut on both ends of it. Whenever that's the case, you want to cut the miter on one end first and then measure from that to the location of the second miter.
Here's a tip. For a more exact measurement, instead of using the hook at the end of the tape measure, try placing the 1-inch mark at the edge of the wood. Just make sure to add that inch back again at the other end.
Our measurement is 79 and 7/16. You want to make it
80.
80 and 7/16.
With the power miter saw set to 45 degrees, Steve cuts the molding to length.
There's Steve. How does it fit, bud?
Well, I think it's pretty good.
Okay, so let's attach
There's
that
nothing
one.
like a nail gun for installing molding quickly and easily, especially in an old home like this where pounding on a wall with a hammer can cause cracking and damage fragile plaster. Although with proper eye protection a nail gun is perfectly safe, there is a backblast of air and sometimes it can be a surprise.
Oh, there you go.
A few more nails and Mercy uses the gun like a champ.
Well, this looks good. What do you guys think?
It gives it more depth.
Is that enough?
I think it needs something. I think if we added another piece of trim on the face of the flat part here, came down, that would start to give it that build-up effect that we're looking for.
Okay, a little more thickness, a little more detail. So then that would run where? All the way down to the carpet?
But I don't think it should end at the floor. It seems like it should stop before that.
She's right. Normally, this would stop on a block down here.
Sure, like a plinth block, the kind you use on a mantle or something
Right,
like that.
exactly.
A plinth block is a decorative piece of woodwork that can simulate the base of a column when it's used at the bottom of a door or as part of a fireplace surround.
That looks good. That looks good. I'm just wondering, though, if we couldn't maybe put some kind of detail on the face of this. Maybe make it up with some of the molding that we've got.
a little creative.
Would you like that?
Yeah, that would be good.
All right, let's try it. Let's try it.
Now here's our chance to be creative. Steve pulls out some leftover half round, which we cut into short pieces with miters on both ends. Applied to the face of the block, these will form a sort of raised panel look. It's a simple touch, but one that adds a nice detail.
There you go, Steve. Got a coat of primer on that.
Okay.
With the plinth blocks in place at the bottom and corners, it's time to add the finishing touch. A piece of decorative molding to the face of the door casing. This will create not only more detail, but the appearance of greater thickness.
Now this is the final piece I had in mind.
Piece of shoe molding.
Right.
Ah, I like that. Oh, it balances off this piece that we put on up here very nicely. And I like the way that it finishes off into the plinth block here. Okay, let's nail it on.
Good.
Okay.
Applying caulk to the seams, or any place there's a gap, will give this or any molding job an absolutely professional look. A coat of semi-gloss enamel, and this molding now lives up to the heritage of this 1890s home. Transformed from servants' quarters to guest quarters, the Brunswick Bed and Breakfast has an elegant vacancy just waiting to be filled.
Well, I had a wonderful stay. I loved the project. Thank you guys so much.
Oh, you're welcome. It's great to have you here.
Thanks,
It
Steve.
really was. Thank you, Ron.
And Ron, for the trip.
Thank you
More coffee
very
cake.
much. More coffee cake
More
for the
coffee
road.
cake
Just
for
what
the
I
road.
wanted.
That's right.